Each week we check in with the one and only Dave Weinberg for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, catch Dave's extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com, where if you read this week's column, you would have found out that Dave had a very, very interesting weekend. Dave, you are definitely receiving some criticism by different people about what happened to you this weekend, where basically, let me get this straight. You didn't get to the Eagles game. It didn't go the way you wanted, and you decided to write about it, which was actually a fun column to read. I must give you credit, but
thank you.
But beside that, as I have to pass along the message from Mike Gill. I mean, how did you let this happen?
That's my wife's fault. I blame everything on my wife.
Is your wife okay with you throwing her under the bus?
She doesn't really care.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the beauty of being semi-retired is you can pick and choose what you want to do. You're not beholden to watching every second of every game if you don't want to. And I had the opportunity to play in the club championship in Cape May National for the first time in probably like 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. Only because I was usually, at an Eagles game this weekend. But it was a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday, I played well enough to where I was in second place. So I very well couldn't drop out, just because there's an Eagles game on. So I wound up playing in the tournament on Sunday, and I was lucky enough to win my flight, which is really cool. I've never done that before. And then afterwards, I was, I thought about maybe checking out the end of the game, but I went to the New Jersey Surfing Hall of Fame ceremony in the Flanders Hotel in Ocean City, which is a really cool event for people that don't know. It honors some of the pioneers and legends of the local surfing scene, guys who, got their start like in the early 60s when surfing just made its way here from California. And, this organization does a great job of honoring them. And I just felt that it was my duty or my responsibility to go ahead and help celebrate them and make sure that they got their just due. So that was the reason why. And then my wife didn't take the Eagles game for me, which I asked her repeatedly to do. So that's basically why I didn't see the game.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations on winning your flight. Obviously, your retirement life of golfing has parlayed into you having some extreme golf success between that and then going down to the Carolinas a couple of weeks ago. But I will also say, does the runners of this tournament understand that football happens on Sunday? Do they just not care? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I've often wondered that myself because, like I said, I usually miss the tournament because, back in my previous life, I was always either on the road or I was at the lake covering the game. So, I knew I couldn't play in first. It makes no sense to play in the first round if you play in the second. Or why they do that? There's been a couple of occasions where they've held it in late August, which makes a lot more sense to me because just besides me, I mean, there's nearly 100 people playing in this, and most of them are football fans, and whether it's fantasy or Eagles fans or Giants, Cowboys, what have you. So it would make a heck of a lot more sense to have it at another time of year. You're right there.
All right. So with all that being said, obviously, the Eagles did win.
You're not going to let me off the hook. Go ahead.
With all that being said, the Eagles did win the game. You were not watching it. So is that the reason why they won then? Did they win because you were not watching it?
Maybe that's why. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I'm going to watch this Sunday. So if they lose to San Francisco, then I guess you can blame me for that too.
But on a more serious note, I had a conversation about this yesterday with Bo Wolf from The Athletic. And that is the team just looked different. Whether you're watching the game in real time, whether you watch the highlights, or you're the people who are struggling right now to make Game Pass work because apparently Game Pass updated their system and everyone hates it. But wherever you're watching the game, I think it's obvious that this team is just not the same team that we saw in 2020. And I ask you, Dave, you covered the Eagles for a very long time. You saw many different coaches come in, come out. Can a coaching change really change the dynamic of a locker room so much that a team looks completely night and day?
Again, Josh, Nick Sirianni's done a great job, but I am not going to go there with Doug Peterson and blame him for what happened last year. The team might be different. The entire league is different because of what happened with COVID and everything. It was just a bizarre set of circumstances where, teams weren't allowed to practice during the off season. They didn't have any training camps. All the meetings were in Zoom meetings. Jalen Hurts didn't even get to meet Carson Wentz until like September or something like that. So I can't compare this year to last year. If you want to compare it to 2019, okay. And if I were to tell you that it really isn't that much difference, yeah, a coach can change the atmosphere. A coach can change the culture. Specifically, I remember Chip Kelly. He turned everything upside down when he came in after Andy Reid. I mean, it was just all about sports science and taking your temperature and sleep studies and protein shakes and everything was topsy turvy when he came in 2013. How different it is under Nick, I'm not real sure. I mean, you're right. He's injected a level of enthusiasm there that maybe wasn't there last year, but I think it wasn't there for a variety of reasons. I don't know if coaching was the main reason for it.
So then, is it maybe the quarterback? Well, no, I'm seriously asking because we saw, and when we saw the Colts game on Sunday, saw Carson Wentz do the same thing he always does. Holds the ball for 3, 4, 5 seconds. His offensive line running out of time to block people. He gets sacked. You wonder if Wentz is injured. He gets up. He goes back, tries to throw another ball down the field. So I'm almost wondering, do we not blame Wentz enough for what happened last year? Like, the Eagles obviously turned Doug into the scapegoat, right?
Mm-hmm.
The organization. But do we not blame Wentz enough? Because I feel like we saw the same Wentz last year on Sunday in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'd hate to place the blame on just one person, but I think Carson had more to do with what happened last year than Doug did. Yeah, you're right. He's Jalen is just a natural born leader, and Carson isn't. I got that sense way back in like 2016, 2017, even when he got hurt. Nick Foles took over. There was this divisiveness in the locker room between the two. And Carson just doesn't react very well to competition or to being threatened, and they placated him as much as they could. But Jalen doesn't worry about that kind of stuff. Jalen's like I said, he's been a leader since he's been in Alabama, Oklahoma, and teammates just naturally gravitate towards that. He's not a big rah-rah guy. He doesn't outwardly proclaim himself as the savior or anything like that. He just goes out and gets the job done, and players respect that. And I think that might be one of the big reasons behind what happened on Sunday.
Everyone who got to interview Jalen Hurts before week 1, because he was doing that tour for the FedEx promotion, they all said the same thing. They all said Jalen Hurts is serious about football.
Mm-hmm.
Football,
rent is due, right?
What's that?
The rent is due.
Right, the rent is due. But aside from you ask him a football question, he's almost like a football machine. It's a little bit like if you ask Belichick or Saban a football question. They're going to get really serious answers. And I think that, to me, that's refreshing because, to me, one of the things I think the leader of your team needs to be is serious about the job and then be understanding about the other things. Be flexible on the things that are not the nuts and bolts of the job. And I think that for Hurts, the fact that he is so humble, that's part of the reason why people are accepting of his leadership. Not just because they're naturally drawn to him, but because of the fact that nobody in the locker room thinks that Hurts thinks that he's better than them.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he's a very humble guy, very down to earth, very centered. He doesn't worry about the outside stuff. You're right. He's very focused on his job, takes it very seriously. I mean, I'm sure he has fun away from the field. I'm sure he laughs and jokes. Maybe they go out to dinner or what have you, or have their fun in the locker room after practice or stuff like that. But yeah, it's when it's time for football, he's all about football. He doesn't worry about any of the outside noise, if you will. And that's refreshing to see. I think it does rub off on his teammates too.
Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter, 97.3 ESPN.com, extra point column about his weekend. Go check it out. Listen, I want people to go read it. I want people to read it for themselves. I don't want to give away all the information. The whole point of writing an article is for people to read it, not for me to tell everybody about the whole article on the radio.
Everybody, I could have very well not written anything, and nobody would have known that I missed the Eagles game.
That's true.
But I just thought I'd have a little fun with it.
Right, exactly. And you got to have fun sometimes. But back to the football.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is, I remember, Dave, you were talking about after Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. You talked about multiple times about how they should have stuck with Foles and they should have moved on from Wentz.
Correct.
And to me, and when I say this, I'm not saying that Jalen is Nick. But to me, they both have something in common. The players go to bat for them. The players believe in them. The players rally around both those guys. I don't think it's a coincidence that you have two young men who played a big-time high school football in the South, then got to the NFL, and people could relate to them. I don't think it's a coincidence that there is some connective tissue between Foles and Hurts.
No, there's not. Texas high school football is as good as it gets and as big as it gets. Jalen mentioned that in his interviews, that Friday Night Light stuff. That's no joke. And I often get a kick out of skeptics or critics or media or what have you, and they'll worry about whether a rookie can handle the big time pressure of the NFL fans and 40,000 fans in the stands, what have you. And I laugh at that because Jalen played before 100,000 fans every week in Alabama and Oklahoma. And before that, Texas high school football, you see 10,000, 20,000 fans in the stands every Friday night. These guys have been playing under pressure their whole lives, and they know how to deal with it. They know how to thrive under it. And I think that is a connection between Nick and Jalen. And, Carson has all the talent in the world, don't get me wrong, but I just can't help feel that he played for North Dakota State. There was no pressure there, I don't think. They do have a reputation for success, but it's just not the same as playing at a big-time college. And where he played high school football, I don't know if it was North Dakota or North Carolina for a time. It's just not the same. And, that's not to say that people from those areas can't thrive and succeed in the NFL, because it happens all the time. But I do think that I think Nick, in the case of Nick and Jalen, they were pretty much groomed from the get-go to have the kind of success they've enjoyed.
Dave, the other Eagles point I want to ask you about is, I mentioned this last week leading up to the game, and again on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
There are a group of people who just don't want to accept that football is won in the trenches. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's because they're fantasy football obsessed. I don't know if it's because they have money on the game. I don't know if it's because they just never played football themselves. But to me, Dave, the fact that the Eagles' offensive line and defensive line are healthy is a big part of them having success. Look at the Washington football team. They gave the Bucs a run for their money in the postseason last year, not because of Taylor Heineke, but because that front seven down in Washington are a bunch of freaks. So to me, the Eagles, if their offensive and defensive line can stay healthy, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to win the division, but I think they can at least be competitive throughout the year.
That's true. Staying healthy is great. Yeah, that's a real important thing when it comes to a football team, especially in the trenches, like you said, the offensive, defensive line. Everybody knows about their troubles last year on the offense, 14 different starting offensive line combinations, and that was why they struggled the way they did. And now that they're healthy, they have a better chance at it. They, like you said, they're not going to go undefeated. I happen to think they're going to lose on Sunday to San Francisco, but just the fact that they have those studs on the offensive and defensive line, that gives them a chance against any team. Not that they're going to win every game, but that it gives them a chance. You're right; they're not going to get blown out.
And that, to me, is the biggest key. For you to make progress, you got to show that you're a competitive football team and that you're moving in the right direction, Dave. Again, I'm not going to sit here and oh my goodness, the Eagles. No. I just don't want to see a team that's going to make me pull my hair out each week. And I think that's, for a lot of Eagle fans, considering what they've been through with all the drama over the last couple of years, to me, it's just progress in the right direction.
Yeah, it is. It's a stability factor, which they've been lacking for the last couple of years. You're right. But, they do have a reputation for getting it done when it counts. Starting in 2017, 2018, 2019, they made the playoffs every year. And people came to expect that. Didn't happen last year. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I think they do have a chance to get to the postseason. And you're right. That's all the Eagles fans really want. They just want a team that they can root for, that they can show up on Sundays, whether it's at the link or in front of their TV or what have you, and find a reason to be excited and to care. And, that doesn't always happen, but the fact that they got off to an encouraging start last week, that gives fans a reason to hope, and that's all you can ask for.
Now, speaking of hope, Dave, I was going to text you over the weekend, but then I realized, first of all, what time it was, and second of all, when they lost the game, my text kind of got voided. But I was going to text you and say, congratulations, Appalachian State's beating Miami, and then they go ahead and lose on a field goal. I mean, that game was absolutely insane, the fact that they were that close to winning it. But, for goodness sake, Miami found a field goal kicker.
Yeah, they covered, which was good for me. But yeah, people tend to, unfortunately, or whatever, they know that Appalachian beat Michigan, in the biggest upset ever, really, a few years ago, and should have beaten Penn State a couple of years ago also. They got hosed by the refs, but that's another story. But yeah, App State's a big-time program now. They're in the Sun Belt Conference. They've won that conference, 5 of the last 6 years. I mean, they didn't win it last year, but that's because Coastal Carolina found a way to have a good football team for a change. But yeah, I'm no longer surprised when App State, takes top teams to the wire, because they've been doing it for the last couple of years, and I'm expecting them to keep doing it. I mean, I was really disappointed though that Sunday. I really thought, knocking off Miami would have been a huge deal for them.
Oh, absolutely. And right now they're 1-1, and if I'm doing the math, then when they face Coastal Carolina, they should still have only one loss on their resume. So that game on October 20th should be a massive game, because both teams should be on winning streaks at that point.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they'll get a ranking sooner or later. I mean, I think they're in one of those. They're at the under consideration to getting a couple of votes. If they'd have beaten Miami, I think they certainly would have cracked the top 25. But hopefully just keep rolling, and hopefully that Sun Belt Conference title will come back to Boone at the end of the year.
We'll see. I mean, to me, there's really only two challenging games on the entire schedule, in my opinion. It's obviously the Coastal Carolina game, but then the week before it's at Louisiana, just because Louisiana has talent. It's the game before the game, and you always wonder, are the guys going to be focused and all that kind of stuff. So just, it's always interesting to see, the mental makeup of a team the week before a big game as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually hoping to get to a game this year. I haven't been in, forever. Hopefully Mike Gill won't get mad if I miss an Eagles game to go see App State. I don't know.
Well, here's the funny thing. The Marshall game's on Thursday, the at Louisiana game's on Tuesday, and then the Coastal Carolina game at App State is on a Wednesday. So those are 3 games right smack dab in the middle of the week.
There you go. That's right. So I will have an excuse then, I guess, huh?
Well, also some of them are on Saturdays. So, I mean, it's not like they're on Sunday, but,
That's true. Yep. Very, very true.
You just got to make sure you get down there while the weather is still nice. You get some holes of golf in, right?
Josh, let me tell you, I've been to, was it Boone? That was a culture shock for me. I knew it was going to be, I knew it was in the mountains, but the first snow was like in November. I didn't see the grass again until Easter. It was just, it was just brutal. Beautiful campus, great people, but the weather, you can leave it there as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to try and get there like in October or to see one before the snow starts.
That sounds like a good plan. He's Dave Weinberg at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. He joins us each and every Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, always enjoy chatting with you, and enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully there's no more DVR issues in your house.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure. I'll make sure I watch the game this time live, so I won't have to rely on my wife to tape it for me.
All right, Dave. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot, Josh.